Welcome to Everything Guitar Episode 10. I am Ben France, your host of this weekly deep dive into everything guitar related. If you're new to the channel, feel free to go ahead and click the subscribe button and maybe ring the bell to get notifications for when new episodes of Everything Guitar go live. New episodes do premiere on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, which is Greenwich Mean Time minus 5 hours. So you can look up GMT or Greenwich Mean Time, which would be 3 p.m. GMT on Saturdays. Compare that to your local time to find out when new episodes premiere. I typically do live premieres with all of the new episodes, so you can jump on there, chat with me, ask me questions, just chat about guitar and talk about this awesome instrument that we all love so much. I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you're probably a guitar player or interested in guitar as well. So let's get together. Let's talk more about it. Additionally to that, if you find this specific video to be helpful, entertaining, educational, fun, funny, any or all of the above, feel free to go ahead and give me a thumbs up on this video as well. That'd be awesome. So let's go ahead and get started with episode 10 with the news. To start with this week on the news, there's a new teaser that's came out by Mateus Asado. It's covered on the Guitar World website. That he put a cryptic post out with some really cool guitar and just the title Studio Time on his Instagram feed. I wonder what that can mean. So let's jump over to the Guitar World website and let's take a look at it. You'll see here on Guitar World that it says, "Is this the first taste of Mateus Asado's solo album? The rising guitar star teases some quote-unquote studio time shredding. We're always up for a good Mateus Asado jam on Instagram, but it looks like the ridiculously talented electric guitar player who ranked highly on our list of the 20 best guitarists of the decade may now be gearing up to unleash a solo record on us." A recent post from Asado, which features a 30-second clip of the guitarist at his heaviest and shreddiest, is coupled with a caption that merely says, quote, "Studio Time." As for what this means, this is anyone's guess. Sure. But we're hoping for more, and soon. Asado has been long at work on a solo album, which was originally slated for release in 2019, according to an interview with Forbes. So let's check out the video here. Man, can that guy freaking play. Holy crud. His technique, the ability to sweep, that really percussive, palm muted sound, he gets some of those notes. Incredible. Not to mention the fact that if you listen to his lead tone, he's not hugely freaking saturated. It's not a real metally, insanely high gain tone, which gives him the opportunity to have a little bit softer, smoother sounding notes, or when he really digs in with that pick, you can really hear those notes come alive. So pretty cool stuff. Also, you'll see on the screen here that it says, in other Mateus news, he recently unveiled the newest version of his Sir signature model, the Mateus Asado Classic T. So the Classic T, as we'll jump over to Sir, you'll see, means a Telecaster style of guitar. So let's jump down here to the specs on that gorgeous thing right there. We will see that it is a ash body, a swamp ash body. It is a Classic T or Telecaster shape. It has a Bakelite pickguard, has a 3A roasted bird's eye maple neck, and 3A roasted bird's eye maple fretboard. It is a even C medium shaped neck with a 9 to 12 inch compound radius. If you don't know what that means, if you're new to guitar, the radius is how flat the fretboard is. A 9 to 12 inch means basically that it is 9-inch radius at the lower end, closer to the nut, so a little bit easier to play chords and that sort of thing. And the 12-inch radius means as it progresses up the neck, it gets flatter and flatter, making it easier for string bends and lead playing. I'm a pretty big fan of a compound radius myself, although I really just like a flat radius overall, something like my Ibanez here, which is between a 16 and a 17-inch radius. I'm a pretty big fan of flat fretboards. You'll see this specific guitar also has a stainless steel frets, a tusk nut. It has Mateus Asado Classic T signature single coil pickups in it. And it has Sir locking tuners and a Wilkinson 3-saddle classic tier, classic Telecaster bridge along with a hard shell case. Here are some of the beauty shots on this guitar, and you will see that it is an absolutely gorgeous Telecaster style guitar. If there's one thing for sure, no pun intended, Sir knows how to make some very beautiful instruments. So there we go, the Mateus Asado Classic T guitar. Super cool stuff. In addition to that, let's look at a new product this week on the news. This is from Get Good Drums, that purveyor of all things drum library and drum sample instrument related. With Get Good Drums, if you're not familiar with them, they're a company that was started by Adam Nolly Get Good, who's an incredible producer, mixing engineer, musician, former bass player, periphery, and just all around incredible talent in the music world. He started this company with Misha Mansour from Periphery along with a couple of other people, and the goal of Get Good Drums was to make a very accessible, very reasonably priced, yet good sounding drum library or drum instrument. It plays through the contact player, which is a little bit different. A lot of other drum libraries use their own interface, which makes it a little bit easier, I'd assume, to code and to create the libraries, and also cuts down on some of the cost as well. Average Get Good Drum library is about $120-ish as opposed to some of the other companies can be $200-300 or more. Now this particular one, jumping back over to the screen, we will see that this library is the Get Good Drums One Kit Wonder Modern Fusion, and there's the picture of that beautiful kit, or a beautiful kit right there. See, it's very reasonably priced, normally $59, currently on sale for $39. One Kit Wonder, that gives you a little bit of a hint of what this is about. When I first read about this, it made me think of TuneTrack and how they have two different products. They have the Superior Drummer line, which is their high-end, full-featured, deep dive as you want to go drum sampler instrument. And then they also have the Easy Drummer line, which is a little more user-friendly, dive right in and start making music type of line. So this One Kit Wonder made me think a little bit of Easy Drummer in its concept. We'll see here that it says, we at GGD are elated to introduce One Kit Wonder, a series of drum libraries inspired by the many GGD users who use our drums for songwriting. In the creative process, it's crucial that there's as little time wasted between the moment inspiration strikes and how important it is to capture and hear your ideas sounding polished and professional as soon as possible, so you can stay excited as you develop the ideas further. And this is where One Kit Wonder comes into play. Each kit is captured to the same level of detail as our other libraries, but they're also fully mixed and ready to go, so you can dive straight into the writing process with your ideas immediately sounding amazing. This particular kit, One Kit Wonder Modern Fusion, is inspired by contemporary progressive fusion artists where the music demands a clean and glossy drum sound that nevertheless retains an organic timbre and wide dynamic range. You'll find the snares and toms are punchy but musical, while the kit can deliver piercing attack or a solid thud depending on the dynamic range you utilize. The cymbals are shimmery and hi-fi, but also have an underlying dark complexity, a little bit of contradiction there, and touch responsiveness. So, scrolling down on the page, we'll see there are some sound samples. So let's check them out, starting with the One Kit Wonder Modern Fusion Clean from Misha Mansour from Periphery. All right, so pretty nice sound there, nice crack on the snare, and kind of a nice deep low end kind of punch to that kick drum, and some very clean sounding cymbals. Let's jump over to the heavy demo by Misha. Immediately I think Periphery when I hear this track. Side note. All right, so we can hear where that sounds very cool, like I said, very progressive metal, gent, I hate to use that word, but gent-ish sound. So there's also a very interesting one here by Joe Hamilton, who I'm not familiar with, called Beached Things. Let's check that out. All right, so that's somewhere kind of between the clean and heavy Misha demos. Now, you also notice at the top of the screen here, there's one that says Modern Fusion Plenty. A little bit of a teaser there. We're going to jump over to Plenty's actual YouTube page. If you're not familiar with Plenty, why not? If you're watching this page and you're a guitar player, oh my gosh, you owe it to yourself to check him out. He's probably my favorite modern guitar player currently out. Plenty is what I would say progressive fusion slash rock slash metal slash just all around insanely talented guitar player. Like I said, probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, of the modern era of players. His phrasing is incredible. His tone is just unbelievable. His songwriting skills are awesome. His chops are super on point. He can do anything sweeping. He can write some very jazzy chords, that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm kind of fanboying a little bit out on Plenty. He's kind of my go-to guy when I want to listen to something guitar-oriented modern music as far as my favorite goes. So he released this video, you'll see here on the screen, that says Plenty and Get Good Drums. So it's kind of a short little demo of the Get Good Drums. So let's check it out to listen to the GGD One Kit Wonder Modern Fusion, but also just to get a little bit of a brief minute and 16-second master class in modern guitar. So here we go. And just as a side note, that Strandberg he's playing doesn't look like a normal Strandberg. If you're familiar with them, they're an ergonomic guitar, kind of a super stratty kind of shape, like my Ibanez RG with a carved upper horn like this. That guy, dare I say, looks a little Telecaster-ish, so Plenty, what's up with that? Ola Strandberg, do we have maybe a new signature model coming out? Yes, please. That thing is gorgeous, and the fact that it has single coils is awesome. So anyway, back to the video. All right, so there we go, the GGD One Kit Wonder Modern Fusion Kit, and man, that guy just slays me every time I listen to him play. I vacillate back and forth between it motivating me to want to sit down and write some really cool guitar music, and me just shaking my head and saying, what's the point? Because he's reached the pinnacle, I think. So anyway, that is the news for this week. So let's jump into this week's mini guitar lesson. All right, on this week's mini guitar lesson, I thought we would continue our dive into different chords and chord shapes by taking a look at augmented chords. Now, you may not be familiar with the term augmented chord, but I'd be willing to put money on the fact you probably have played an augmented chord, maybe not even realizing what that is. So what is an augmented chord? An augmented chord is where you take a basic triad, whether it's a major or minor triad, and you take your fifth and you raise it by one semitone or one half of a step. So what does that mean? Let's take a look at that. We're going to stay with the same chords that we've been using for the past 2 weeks of exploration just for continuity's sake, but keep in mind these concepts apply to any chord that you're playing that is a triad that has a fifth in it. So let's start out by taking a look at the D chord, and I'm going to turn down just a little bit the sound we have here. So let's start by taking a look at a D minor chord. We're going to do this on a pretty clean setting. I'm using the Archetype Plenty plugin, yes, because I'm a Plenty fanboy, but also because this is my favorite neural DSP library, at least at the moment, for most playing things. So let's start out by taking a look at a basic D minor chord. D minor sounds like this. I'm sure you're familiar with it. How do we spell out that chord? How is that chord made? Well, the notes of a D minor chord are, starting out, open fourth string, a D. Third string, second fret, an A. Second string, third fret, another D, an octave higher. And first string, first fret, a F, or an F, pardon me, not to make it sound confusing. So D minor, D, A, D, F. Turn that guy down just a smidge more. All right, so remember I said to make it into an augmented chord, we take our fifth and we raise that by 1/2 of a step. Now we've talked about what that means as far as our fifths and thirds previously, going all the way back to episode 1 of Everything Guitar, where we explored the basic major scale. But just for a quick review, if this is your first time watching and you're not familiar with music theory and the different notes, in Western music we have 7 notes. We have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then we start back over with A. So, each one of those notes is represented by a number, 1 through 7. Now, that doesn't mean your 1 is always your A and your 3 is always your C. Whatever note you're playing, whatever note you're starting with, which is called your root note, that is going to be your 1. So, if you're playing in the key of D, if you're playing a D chord, like D minor like we did, your 1 or your first note, because where you're starting, is D. So you count up then consecutively. So if your 1 is D, 2 would be an E, 3 would be an F, 4 would be a G, 5 would be an A, 6 would be a B, and your 7th would be a C. Now that doesn't mean they're just a straight C, straight A, straight B, and so on. It can be a B flat, a C sharp, depending on what key you're in. But for sake of simplicity today, let's just stay with those A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and those being the consecutive notes 1 through 7, depending on where you're starting. So in the key of D, your root or your 1 is D. So if we count up, remember I said for an augmented chord, our fifth gets raised a semitone or 1/2 a step. So if we're in D, let's count up. D is 1, E is 2, F is 3, G is 4, and our 5 would be an A. So let's go back and look at our D minor chord again. We said the notes of that are D, A, D, and F. So we know that 5 is an A. Well, in this chord, where's our A? That is our middle finger. That is fret number 2 on the 3rd string, is an A. So if we want to make this an augmented, a D augmented, we need to raise that note, our A, by 1 semitone or by 1/2 of a step. So instead of playing an A, we play an A sharp or B flat, depending on what you want to call it. So what that does to our chord is it adds some tension to our chord. Instead of sounding like this, which a D minor is kind of a sad sounding chord, but it sounds like it has some resolution. Like, even though it's sad, I picture that D minor chord almost like we're sighing. We're kind of sad and we're resolved to our fate. So, okay, here we are. Now, if we make that into a D minor augmented, we raise that fifth from an A to a B flat. It adds some weird tension to it. Listen to the difference between this, our D minor, and our D minor augmented, raising our A by just sliding our 2nd finger up 1 fret to the 3rd fret to a B flat. You hear how it doesn't quite have that resolution. You don't quite get that sigh, that kind of calming, resigned, we're done, here we are. It gives you a little bit of a questioning kind of, what's going on here? D minor resolves. Sad, we're resigned to our fate. We're kind of like, here we are. D minor augmented. Something sounds uneasy, something doesn't feel quite right. So augmented chords are really good at that, for kind of adding that uneasy, disquieting kind of feeling. So D minor, once again, spelled D-A-D-F, played 4th string, 3rd string, 2nd string, 1st string. Frets, open, 2nd fret with our middle finger. 3rd fret on the 2nd string with our 3rd finger. first fret on the first string with our first finger. So D minor augmented, we take that second finger on the third string on fret 2, we slide it up 1 fret to fret 3. All right, so D minor augmented. Now let's take a look and let's look at a G bar chord, because this has been one of our chords we've been using as an example as we've been exploring different chord voicings and different chord shapes. So going to a D minor, or a G minor, pardon me, bar chord, that it sounds like this. And that's spelled out with our first finger barred across all 6 strings on the 3rd fret. That is a G, is our root note. Then we have our 3rd finger on the 5th fret of the 5th string, that's a D. We have our pinky on the 5th fret of the 4th string, that is a G, so that's an octave. We have our first finger barred across the 3rd fret of string 3, that gives us a B flat, which is a common note we just saw with our D augmented. Then we have that same first finger barred across the 3rd fret of string 2, which gives us a D. And then we have our string 1, 3rd fret, which gives us a G 2 octaves higher. So, G minor bar chord. Well, remember what we just said. To make this an augmented chord, we need to look for our 5th, and we need to raise that 1 semitone or 1/2 a step. So let's do the math and let's walk through it together. If we're in G, our 1, or our root note, remember, is the note we start with, which is G. So then our 2nd would be A, our 3rd would be B, our 4th would be C, and our 5th would be D. So the notes we just said, where is our D that we're playing? If this is our G, we said this note, fret 5, string 5, is a D. So there's our 5th. Root, 5, octave. So what we want to do is we want to raise that 5th fret on string 5 from a D to a D sharp. You can automatically hear how that sounds kind of, that transition from there to there has got a little bit of a disquieting, kind of eerie feel to it. So now how do we play that? Well, obviously if we're playing a bar chord like this, it's going to be kind of hard to put our 3rd finger, our ring finger, up there on fret number 6. So what we can do is when we're planning ahead, we can invert or switch these 2 fingers. So now we have 3rd fret barred across all 6 strings with our index finger. For our 5th fret, or D, in a standard or G minor bar chord, let's use our pinky on fret number 5. And let's use our ring finger on fret number 5 of string 4. So we just switch those 2. Instead of looking like this, they look like this. Same sound, still a G minor, but we've changed the fingering. What that allows us to do then is we can take our pinky, slide that up to fret number 6, our D sharp, and automatically there is our G augmented. So G, G augmented. So use those augmented chords. Like I said, they can add a little bit of eeriness, a little bit of unease or disquieting. It also can make for some very interesting, very cool arpeggiated chord movements. If you do something going back to that D minor, if you start in your D minor and then you raise that up to a D minor augmented, it gives you something that sounds like this. So, augmented chords, there you go. Continue to tune in next week where we'll dive further into some additional chord shapes and some different chord voicings to expand our vocabulary and hopefully increase the interest level of our writing. Alright, so that's it for episode 10 of Everything Guitar. If you did find this video to be useful, helpful, fun, funny, entertaining, educational, any or all of those, feel free to give me a thumbs up on it. Also, make sure to click the subscribe button and the notification button down there to get access and notification to new episodes of Everything Guitar, along with additional music and guitar-related content I put out on my channel. Thanks very much for tuning in. Hope you have a great week, and as always, keep practicing and keep playing. Take care, everyone. Bye.